So when this series started out, I initially made a video that covered all of Holocure's items in 0.5. That video is severely outdated, as not only have several new items been released, but the introduction of new characters, super collabs, and reworks have changed which items are worth getting. As such, this video will be revisiting the topic and seeing what's changed. Items are in-game boosters that can be equipped to your character, all with unique properties. You can only have a total of 6 items equipped in a run, but in reality you can actually get 7. In my previous video, I divided items up into the following categories: healing, defense, trade-off, stat boost, which could be further separated into conditional and unconditional boosts, and miscellaneous items. This time, I'm adding a new category of item: XP items. The first category of items, healing items, didn't see any new additions in 0.7, but the ranking of the items did change significantly. It includes Just Bandage, Nurse's Horn, Uber Sheep, and Full Meal. I still stand by initial opinion that you should always get at least one healing item if you're just starting out, but which one you should get is now a lot more up for debate. Bandage makes it so that after you get hit, you will heal 10% of your health every 3 seconds until you're healed back to all the damage taken. It's the most basic of the healing items, but it has the drawback that if you aren't hit, it won't heal you, meaning it's less effective on healer characters that are dependent on the frequency of heals. Nurse's Horn does the same thing as it did before, where it has a chance to heal you 2 HP every time you defeat an enemy. However, it now has the ability where if you are hit while your health is really low, being 15%, it will have a chance to heal a portion of your max HP. It unfortunately is not enough for Nurse's Horn to be considered the best item. Uber Sheep did not change whatsoever from the previous patches. All it does is increase the chance of enemies dropping food upon defeat and has the game drop a hamburger every few seconds. However, Uber Sheep is arguably the best healing item to get. Why? Well, remember when I mentioned you could actually get 7 items despite being only able to equip 6? Well, if you get the right item, you can fuse it with a specific collab once you reach level 50, or get 3 collabs to create what is known as a super collab, consuming the item and creating a more powerful weapon as a result. Uber Sheep is a component of the super collab Jingisakan, which not only does damage to enemies, but also heals you so long as you stand within its radius, making it incredibly busted as it does double duty of damaging enemies and healing you. The only reason you shouldn't get Uber Sheep is if you're trying to get a different super collab. Else, get Uber Sheep to get Jingisakan. The last healing item, Full Meal, doubles all sources of healing. Again, it doesn't actually heal you, meaning you'll have to get a different source of healing if you want to utilize it. However, due to changes to some character kits like Choco and the addition of new characters like Watame, Full Meal still has a niche that can't be filled by any other item, making it a useful item. The defensive items also didn't get many significant changes. They consist of body pillow, plushie, headphones, and breastplate. Plushie makes it so that when you're damaged, you only take a small portion of the damage initially, while the rest of the damage turns into pink health that decays over time. It is useful for delaying otherwise lethal encounters, but I personally don't use it much due to my tendency to forego defense in this game. Headphones makes it so that if an enemy hits you, it creates a shockwave that knocks enemies back and negates the damage. I also don't use this item all too much neither, with maybe the exception of Shion. Body pillow creates a shield that absorbs some damage that regenerates every 15 seconds and also reduces the damage you take. Its main purpose is preserving buffs that may be lost upon getting hit, and it will give you extra health in hardcore mode. However, it's no longer that good of a defensive item due to body pillow's damage reduction rate not increasing when it levels. It's pretty much fallen out of favor compared to breastplate. Breastplate, arguably the best defensive item, not only reduces the damage you take, but also makes it so that if an enemy hits you, it will have a chance of doing damage to that enemy. This item was pretty much the go-to defensive item for a lot of coin farming runs, not only for the Thorn effect, but because breastplate had the highest amount of damage reduction that only got higher the more you leveled it. In addition, its effect of damaging enemies that hit you only required the enemies to touch you, not damage you. As such, if a character was somehow in a state where they were invincible and decided to touch a lot of enemies, then those enemies would take damage from breastplate. Of course, such power comes at a price of reducing your speed by 20%, which makes this item overlap with the next set of items, the trade-off items. The trade-off items are all items that give you some kind of stat boost, but in exchange give up something else, usually stats. It consists of Face Mask, Injection Type Asakoko, Energy Drink, Gorilla's Paw, Hope Soda, Candy Kingdom Sweets, Stolen Piggy Bank, Membership, and Raven's Feather. Again, like in my previous video, I advise avoiding these items unless your character has a synergy that benefits from the item or a means to offset the cost, since while these items are arguably some of the strongest items in the game, the drawbacks that they inflict on you can kill you if you get too greedy or don't know what you're doing. Use trade-offs responsibly. The first of these items, Face Mask, makes you deal 1.3 times more damage and attack 10% faster, but makes you take 30% more damage. If you don't get hit often, it's worth grabbing since not only is the extra damage and haste worth it, but Face Mask's damage boost is a multiplicative boost, meaning the more damage you stack up, the bigger its boost becomes. Gorilla's Paw also has a multiplicative boost, making you deal 1.4 times more damage at max level, but in exchange reduces your crit chance by 20%. Again, this item is one you want to use for characters who don't have skills related to crits or already have an abysmal crit chance. However, it is arguably one of the better trade-off items due to having the super collab Holy Fire. Getting the super collab will negate the trade-off, so if you get this item and aren't planning on getting another super collab, be sure to get the Dragonfire collab. Injection Type Asakoko boosts your damage by 80% at max level, but in exchange, makes it so that you lose 5% of your HP every second. second. It probably has the most costly trade-off, so unless you're playing a healer character who can offset the cost with healing or find a way to negate the trade-off, then don't get this item. Energy Drink increases your haste and speed and in exchange reduces your maximum health. It's a very underwhelming item and I don't recommend getting it. It has benefits on characters who benefit from speed boosts like Fubuki, and even then that's somewhat tenuous as you can just get the speed stamp. Don't get this item, there are better ones to get. Hope Soda increases your crit damage while in exchange increasing the amount of time you need to charge your special attack. It's an interesting item, but increasing crit chance is more valuable than crit damage because the characters who need crits don't need it for the damage but to proc effects from their skills. And besides, you start getting crit damage after reaching 100% crit chance, so this item's only use is for its super collab, which, no offense, kind of sucks. Candy Kingdom Sweets increases your haste by a large amount, but in exchange decreases your damage. It also has a bonus ability where attacks have a small chance to deal a percentage of their initial damage to enemies, but you mostly get this item for the haste. This is one of my two personal favorite items because I love getting a high haste, but if you play Endless mode, don't get this item since it's much better to just get stat boosts in Endless. Stolen Piggy Bank is probably the most interesting item. It increases your speed while decreasing your pickup range. However, nobody really uses this item for its trade-off ability. What they do use it for is the fact that at max level, it will get you a holo coin for every 50 pixels that you move, basically guaranteeing you holo coins so long as you move. This makes it incredibly useful for characters who have effects that proc upon collecting holo coins, and those characters are the ones who want to use this item. Membership increases your damage and reduces your damage taken. However, unlike all the previous trade-off items, which trade one stat for another, membership makes you lose 3 coins every second. This makes it pretty much one of the best trade-off items as the trade-off is not one you need to worry about when playing the game, and you tend to earn so many holo coins that you will almost have this online. However, as I stated in my previous video, you need to ask yourself if losing 4,000 holo coins a game is worth the stat boost. Usually it is, since damage reduction is just that good. I still don't get this item though, but I do think it's a good item to get if you want it. The last trade-off item is probably the most interesting of the bunch, and its status as one is definitely up for debate. I'm considering it one, but you can argue otherwise. Raven's Feather gives you a revive and makes it so that every minute you survive in the game, you get a 6% boost to your attack. However, if you lose your revive, you lose all the extra attack you gained and half of the holo coins you gained at the end of the game. It has the potential to stack a lot of damage, over 100% if you get it really early, and even more if you're playing Endless mode. The only issue I have with it is the cost of holo coins. You could just burn the life and then keep the item, as the item still boosts your attack even when you have no lives, but try to burn it quickly so you don't lose out on too many holo coins. Next is the stat boosts, which just raise your stats like the trade-off items but without the drawbacks. Still, these are probably the most interesting items since the way they raise your stats tends to be pretty wild, and as such, their value tends to be dependent on your character. They can be separated into conditional and unconditional stat boosts. For unconditional stat boosts, the first item is Idle Costume, which decreases the time you need to recharge your special. It's best to use on characters who will be spamming their special attack often, though I personally don't use it much outside of playing Raine and maybe Toa, since I tend to treat special attacks as panic buttons. Limiter gives a massive stat boost to your pickup range, and that's about it. It's not exactly an interesting item and tends to not be worth getting unless your character really needs the pickup range, like Aqua. Nightly Milk increases the attack area of area type attacks as well as boosts your pickup range, though the range is significantly weaker than Limiters, which makes sense since Nightly Milk is doing more things at once. It also boosts knockback effects on weapons. This item was arguably one of the best in 0.3 and maybe 0.4 since so many weapons back then were area type weapons, and it also affected some skills, but since the game has added so many new items, it's not that powerful anymore and there are better items to get. Beetle is my personal favorite item and has the ability to increase skill damage. Considering how many character kits are built around their skills, Beetle is a very powerful item, as boosting skill damage is always a boon. Of course, it's only good on characters that actually have skills that can attack, so keep that in mind. Piki Piki Pimon used to be a miscellaneous item, but it was reworked so that it would increase your main weapon and special attacks damage. The catch? That damage boost was directly proportional to your max health. This makes it one of the best items in Endless mode, as it converts health into extra damage, which you will constantly be increasing due to stat increases in the level up screen. In Stage mode, it's most beneficial on characters with a busted main weapon. Corporation also does a similar thing to Piki Piki Pimon, where it increases the area attack of all of your weapons. Only instead of being proportional to your health, it is proportional to your pickup range. I haven't figured out the best circumstances to use this item, but if you're a Asana main, this item, Limiter, and Nightly Milk are probably going to be your Exodia. Ninja Headband increases your speed as well as the damage of your melee weapons. It's alright as an item, but like I said before, the item suffers from the fact that there are very few melee weapons in the game outside of the character's main weapons. All you have are the new Owl Dagger, Sausage, Spider Cooking, and Whammy Water, and it gets even worse for collabs. While there are more melee collabs than melee weapons, 3 use Psycho Axe. and 2 use Owl Dagger. As such, if you get Ninja Headband, you'll be locked into a very specific collab loadout. Focus Shades increases the crit chance of all multi-shot and ranged weapons, and makes it so that enemies hit by crits from said weapons will also take extra damage over time. This item is a lot less restrictive compared to Ninja Headband due to there being many more ranged and multi-shot weapons and collabs, though you'll really only get this if you have some skill that procs on crits. The last unconditional stat boost item, Promise Tiara, is weird. It increases the rate at which stamps drop and increases your crit chance and haste for each stamp that has dropped. Since there are a total of 22 stamps, you can get a maximum of 22% crit chance and 44% haste, though that's just mostly a nice bonus. The real benefit of this item is the fact that stamps drop randomly in the game, so having a way to increase their drop rate makes it easier for you to find a specific stamp you are looking for. For conditional stat boosts, the first item is Sake, which increases your crit chance so long as you aren't hit or you eat food. It hasn't gotten any changes, but it is part of the super collab Snow Queen, which gives you a crit boost without the condition of not getting hit. So there's that. I personally don't get Sake unless I'm explicitly getting Snow Queen because there are just better crit boosting items in the game. GWS Pill increases your crit chance and skill damage so long as your special attack is charging. The buff to skill damage is weaker than Beetle since it also increases crit chance, but the item is still about the same as before, meaning you really only get it for characters who will always be using their special attacks on cooldown. Devil Hat multiplies the damage of all of your range and multi-shot weapons by 1.3 after you activate your special. The time in which it is active increases with each level. Now, I initially thought that if you would get a character with a special shorter than Devil Attack's duration, you could just spam the special attack for a permanent stat boost. But the item apparently has a goddamn cooldown of 20 seconds between each proc, in which it will not work even if you activate your special in that time, which sucks. As such, the item works best if you treat your special attack like a panic button since it will boost your damage after using your special to get out of a tricky situation, making it more likely you won't die while using said special. Still not very good though. The XP items consist of Study Glasses and Researcher's Coat, and have the special perk of being more likely to drop if you bring Turtle Soup into a run. Study Glasses increases your XP gain, 10% when you first get it, and 30% at max level, and also increases your damage slightly each time you level up after getting it. It has a high level investment of 5 levels, which will put strain on your run since 5 levels in the early game matter a lot. But you want to get it as soon as possible if you're going for it, since it is at its strongest in the early game. If you're going for it, get it as early as possible, primarily within the first 10 or so levels so that you can not only maximize the amount of XP you'll get, but also maximize the damage boost, since the bonus damage from leveling up only applies after you get the item. The second XP item, Researcher's Coat, makes it so that you passively gain XP every 2 seconds. I almost never get this item since I play primarily stage mode, but I reckon it has more uses in endless mode where XP becomes more scarce, though I'm not too sure. Let me know in the comments if you know when to use this item. And for the miscellaneous items, we have the strongest item in the game, Holo. This item is either the best item in the game or the worst item in the game depending on how good you are. It makes it so that the enemies become stronger and spawn more frequently, but each time you defeat 5 enemies, you will get 1 holo coin, and at level 5, you will get 1 holo coin for each enemy you defeat. This item is so good not only because it has the ability to net you massive amounts of holo coins, but because the extra enemies still drop XP, meaning you will get more XP, allowing you to level up and become stronger even faster. In addition, more enemies means more chances to get anvils, holo coins, fan lighters, and holo house resources drops. Of course, since holo makes the stage harder, I advise against getting Holo 5 immediately unless you know what you're doing. Kusugaki Shackles makes it so that all the negative effects of items that you have are reduced and completely negated at level 3, meaning that the trade-off items and breastplate will have their negative effects removed. For Raven Feather, only the holo coin trade-off is negated, not losing your attack after reviving. This item's power is dependent on how many trade-off items you have equipped, getting stronger the more you get. It doesn't work on Holo though. Credit Card makes it so that anvils drop more quickly, and it causes less to overlevel weapons with anvils. Blacksmith's Gear makes it so that you can use an anvil twice instead of once, as well as increasing the stat boost for when you overlevel weapons. They find much more value in endless mode, where you want to use anvils to level your weapons and use your levels to boost your stats. But in stage mode, neither are particularly necessary unless you want to enchant all of your weapons, and even then, the game usually drops enough anvils to get what enchantments you need. Chicken's Feather grants you an extra revive, and if you max it out, you'll get a total of 3 extra revives. If you die with a revive, you'll get back 50% of your HP and kill all non-boss enemies on the screen. The revives are the same as Raven's Feather, so if you're trying to get the stat boost from Raven's Feather, don't get this item since that will be more times you can lose your damage boost and half of your coin yield. Super Chatter Time makes it so that enemies drop more holo coins as well as having your character pick up those coins automatically. It's pretty much the most important item for coin farming, but since it has no other benefits and takes 5 levels, you should only get this item when you're farming coins. So that's pretty much all the items in the game. You can also get Super Collabs, which have a small chance of spawning from Holozon boxes, either as a new item or even as an item you already have, in which case it will replace the original item. However, since Holozon boxes are the only way of getting them, you shouldn't plan your run around them. So, thanks for watching, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos, and happy holocuring.